Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today I'm back in Grand Theft Auto Online and we are going to be going over what to buy and what to avoid this week in GTA Online. Now of course this week is the Black Friday week, so we have an absolute ton of discounts this week, including the vehicle that you can see sitting here behind me, which is of course the F-160 Raiju, which is considered by most people as the best jet in the game when it comes to overall ability. It has vertical takeoff and land, it has stealth mode, it's extremely fast, it's the fastest accelerating plane in GTA, it has the highest top speed out of all the planes in GTA, at least the armed ones that is. It does have homing missiles and of course it does have explosive MGs as well. So it is a very well equipped plane and it is going to be discounted this week. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later, but I just wanted to get started with that right off the bat. Another thing that I want to say right off the bat is leave a like on the video if you enjoy it. If not, dislike, of course. Feel free to wait till the end before you do so, and consider subscribing if you're new. But other than that, I did want to say we have made some progress on the heist challenge that is ending on December 4th. We're at $12 trillion out of our $20 trillion goal, and the vehicle that we're supposed to be getting if we did hit the $20 trillion goal is the police boat, and that would be free for all players if we hit the goal. It looks like we're probably not going to hit the goal this week, unfortunately. We do have diamonds guaranteed as heist loot in the casino heist for every run through of it, so they have given us a pretty fair shot at it, but the diamond casino heist is pretty glitchy and it also requires 2 players, so I feel like we're probably not going to get the goal. With that being said, if you want to contribute, definitely consider doing that, but yeah, it's unfortunate, but I don't really think we're probably going to get there. But just so you guys are aware, if you do complete the Diamond Casino Heist this week, you will get $100,000 in GTA Online and the Diamond Casino Heist Strike Vest, which is kind of cool, I do suppose. And one more thing before we get into the rest of the video. This is, of course, a disclaimer because you need to really be mindful of the new DLC that is coming out on December 10th. Before you consider buying a ton of the stuff that is on discount this week. It's not a coincidence that Rockstar has gone over the top with the discounts. They want to separate you and your money so that on the day of the DLC, when they drop a bunch of cool new cars, businesses potentially, aircraft, whatever they're going to drop, they're trying to get you to buy shark cards because you're desperately going to want that new stuff. So just keep in mind, don't go too crazy this week. Make sure you have, I'd say, at least $10 million for the update so you can maybe buy 3 of the new cars when they drop, or you know, whatever you want to do with it. But definitely save some money for the DLC. That is something that you need to consider. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into some of the money bonuses for the week. To start things off, we have double money and double RP on all open wheel races in GTA Online, so definitely give these a shot if you are interested in them. They are pretty fun, I will say. Deadline is on double money and double RP for the remainder of this week, and so are the diamond adversary modes here. All the ones that start with diamond, these are all double money and double RP, so keep that in mind for sure as well. And we also have the junk energy skydive locations. All of those are going to be paying double money and double RP this week as well. Okay, so to get started with the lengthy discounts, we are going to be going to the the Elitist Travel website because we're going to have a lot of discounts on here. Some discounts include the Luxor Deluxe, the Swift Deluxe, the regular Swift, and of course the regular Luxor. Right off the bat, I would say do not buy a single one of these vehicles. The Luxor spawns at the airport, so you can just go and get one for free. It's not that out of the way. It's pretty convenient, so absolutely do not buy a Luxor. The Swift has a little bit more of a case to be made. It is one of the faster unarmed helicopters in the game, and it is spawnable through the CEO vehicles menu when you're in the CEO office, or when you are in the agency and you go to leave. If you have a Swift, you can use the Swift as your exit vehicle. So it is something to keep in mind, but overall I wouldn't say it's worth buying because the Velatus is faster anyways. The Swift is a cool helicopter, but for 800k or 750k, I do feel like it is a little overpriced for a glorified Pegasus vehicle. The Swift Deluxe and the Luxor Deluxe are both complete scams, and I would highly recommend you to not buy them. There's going to be a lot of people in the comments section who are going to be like, I'm buying them just because you said not to. Okay. Who fucking cares? Okay. And moving on to Warstock Cash and Carry, we're going to find a couple of discounts on here, starting off with the weaponized Kanata. This thing is going to be 50% off along with all of the other vehicles that we've already talked about. The Kanata, it sucks. It's worse than the Buzzard, and even on 50% off, it's only like $58,000 cheaper, which is crazy. So I would say don't buy a weaponized Kanata. It's got armor, and it is the fastest armed helicopter in the game, but other than that, it's worse than the Buzzard. It has the same homing missiles, and the machine guns do far, far less damage. So the only advantages that you're getting are it's a little bit faster, or maybe quite a bit faster. I'll go ahead and give that to the weaponized Kanata, and it has armor, but it doesn't have armor in the same way that like the FH1 Hunter and the Akula have armor. It just is more resistant to like gunfire. Explosive damage, you're still going to die really, really fast in this thing, especially in comparison to the Akula and FH1 Hunter. So it and the Buzzard are basically equivalent, but it's just, I don't know, I just feel like it's worse. In my opinion, I would not buy this thing, even on 50% off. The F-160 Raju, however, is quite cheap. It is not 50% off, I will just say that right off the bat. It is only 30% off, which is still a very good discount, I will say. And for under $5 million, if you don't have the trade price, it is a must-buy for sure. And if you do have the trade price for 3.6 mil, if you haven't bought a Raju yet, I do not know what you are doing. This is the best plane in the entire game. There's going to be a lot of people in the comments that are going to be, oh, the Pyro and the Starling for dogfighting, bro. It doesn't. If you just want a plane that is good for literally everything, the Raju is your plane. No questions asked. We also have the Pegasi Toreador on sale this week, and it has a very good discount of 50% off. This is a must-buy this week, for sure, for only $2,125,000. You cannot go wrong with this thing. It has a rocket booster. It can turn into a submarine. It can seat 4 players. It has some of the most aggressive tracking missiles in the game, and some of the highest damaging machine guns in the game as well. And it can take about 6 homing missiles, which is pretty crazy. The Toreador, buy one, 100% buy one. As long as you have money, of course. As long as you have money for the DLC still, but if you do, you should buy a Toreador anyways. We also have the B-11 Strike Force available this week, and it is discounted pretty heavily. It's 35% off this week, and that is a pretty darn good discount, I will say. I would say the B-11 Strike Force is a good plane to pick up if you are anywhere close to interested in dogfighting. It's also the only plane in the entire game that has access to a barrage as well as homing missiles, and it does have the front mounted cannon, but it's not that good, so that is something to keep in mind. It also does have a bomb bay on it, and something cool about the B-11 is the lower you are to the ground, the slower the plane will go to give you more time to line up a shot, and the higher up you are, the faster it will go. Now, every plane in GTA works like that, but the B-11 Strike Force takes it to a different level. It's really good for attacking ground targets if you can be accurate, but that is going to be a little bit challenging. Still, I would recommend the B-11 this week for sure, if you got the money, of course. Here we got 2 more vehicles. We got the Imponte Deluxo. This thing is 50% off this week, which is a crazy discount. The Deluxo is actually a very useful vehicle. It of course can hover or drive like a regular car, and it can also fly. It's very good. It has some of the best missiles in the entire game. It's also super good at dodging missiles too. It doesn't have any armor, unfortunately, which is a big drawback of the Deluxo, but other than that, it's a pretty fantastic vehicle, and for 50% off, this is another one that I would say that I do recommend buying. Next up, of course, we do have the Stromberg. The Stromberg is just a worse Toreador that doesn't have a rocket booster. It's unfortunate, but it's just not really worth buying this week, especially when the Toreador is 50% off as well. I just don't see a world where you should buy a Stromberg instead of just buying the Toreador for like an extra, I don't know, 1.2 mil. I think buy a Toreador, avoid the Stromberg. It's unfortunate. I do like the Stromberg, but it just isn't good compared to the Toreador, and for only like basically double the price. I mean, just buy a Toreador, man, honestly, please. We also have the P996 laser discounted this week. Now, do keep in mind that this thing has had its cannon nerfed, and it is a shell of its former self. The cannon outputs significantly less damage than it used to. It used to absolutely melt armored vehicles, and unarmored vehicles were not even, like, basically not even on the radar. They were just dead. The laser is a little bit worse for wear though now. It is still pretty maneuverable, but at the end of the day, you can still get it at Fort Zancudo, so I would just recommend doing that. I don't really think it's worth $4,225,000 to not drive to Fort Zancudo to get one when you want one. And if you're going to be buying an F-160 Raju anyways this week, which is my #1 vehicle of the week to pick up, there's no point in buying a laser. All you can do to this thing too, by the way, if you bring it to your hangar, is just change the color of it. So it's really not worth buying this week. I would avoid the laser like the plague. We of course also have the regular OG Pegasi Oppressor discounted this week. and it's got a pretty good discount on it. It is 50% off, which is a pretty significant amount. It is a really fun vehicle. It's a lot more fun than the Oppressor Mark II, and I actually think you can kind of get around a little bit faster on the Oppressor than the Mark II Oppressor, but it is going to take some skill and some getting used to, so that is something to keep in mind. Plus, you will need to unlock the missiles for it through bunker research. So if you don't have your bunker research done and you do want the missiles for the Oppressor, you're going to have to complete that. So that is definitely something to consider depending on how far you are into your bunker research. This is something you're really going to want to think about if it's worth buying the Oppressor or not, because by default it comes with machine guns and they do basically no damage. So keep that in mind. I would say the Oppressor, if you have the missiles unlocked, is kind of worth it this week just as a fun vehicle, and it can be good in PvP as well. So definitely consider that, but if you're not really big into PvP and you don't really care about having fun on a flying motorcycle, you don't have to buy it this week, that's for sure. And moving on to Legendary Motorsport, we have the Ubermacht Niobe discounted this week, and it is 30% off, which is not a bad discount. However, actually, you know what? No, you should probably buy one of these this week, especially if you have HSW on your platform, because this is like the best sports car in the game with HSW. So if you have HSW available, yeah, buy the Niobe this week for sure. Even if you're not on next gen or you're not going to be getting HSW like PC is in January, I would say it's still probably worth picking up. It is one of the fastest sports cars in the game, even if you are on last gen. So it is still worth it. It is still a really cool car. It's a really good looking car, nice customization as well. So yeah, buy an Niobe this week, I would say, if you can, for sure. We also have the Grotti Itali GTO Stinger TT. This is one that I don't really recommend buying. It's really not that awesome of a car. It can't really go around corners very well. It does have an HSW upgrade that will turn it into the highest top speed land vehicle in GTA Online, but it can't go around a corner still, so I don't really recommend it. The customization is also pretty lackluster, and overall it's not really a fun driving experience, so this is one that I would say to avoid this week, unfortunately. We also have the Annis ZR350 discounted this week, and I do believe it's about 35% off. Sorry, no, it's 30% off this week. It's got a lot of customization. It's also got the drift tuning modification available for it. It's a really cool car. It's from the Tuners DLC, so you can use it in the Tuners subclass races. So yeah, it's a cool one for 850k. It's kind of like up in the air as to whether it's worth it. If you're a really big Mazda RX-7 fan or a big JDM fan, now is a good time to buy this thing for sure. But for the majority of people, if you don't want a drift car and you don't really care about the RX-7, you could probably avoid picking this one up, honestly. We also have the Progen Emrys and the Truffade Thrax discounted this week as well. The Progen Emrys, currently on PC and last gen, is regarded as one of the very best supercars in the entire game when it comes to circuit racing. It is an awesome car for that. However, PC is getting HSW soon, so it's going to be overshadowed entirely by HSW cars. For that reason, I can't necessarily recommend picking up the Emrys. It also doesn't have that much customization, and it's really not that awesome of a driving experience, unfortunately. So for most people, I'd say you don't really have to buy it this week, unfortunately. And the Truffade Thrax is kind of in the same boat. It is one of the top supercars right now as it stands, but when HSW comes out, this thing is going to be like out of the top 10 probably. So it's this one is, it's more of a free mode car, I would say, because it is all-wheel drive. It does have better sort of low-end handling than the Emrys. It also accelerates out of corners quicker and everything like that. The customization is also much nicer. If you're gonna buy one of the two, I hate to say it, but I think the Thrax is the better one for most players. It's also cheaper, and it's easier to drive, to be honest, too. So I think the Thrax, for the majority of you, is probably gonna be the better car out of the two. I still don't really even recommend buying the Thrax this week, though, because we do have some really good cars on discount as well that we're going to talk about in a minute here, too. We also have the Shih Tzu Hakuchu Drag discounted this week, and it has a pretty good discount on it this week of 50% off. This thing's also able to get HSW, so if you have HSW on your platform, it is a great vehicle to have. It is regarded as, I think, the best land vehicle for going around like corners. Like if you had to go to the top of the map from the city and you had to take a bunch of corners doing it, and assuming you don't fall off the bike or hit a car or anything, obviously, the Hakushu Drag would get you there faster than pretty much anything else in the entire game. This bike is the truth. It is super fast, and it's a really, really good time to ride if you have HSW. If you don't have HSW, it's not as awesome. It still is pretty fun, but it kind of doesn't corner super well, and overall it's mostly good in a straight line, as the drag name would suggest a little bit there for sure. but you can always buy this thing in anticipation of getting HSW on PC, or if you are on a platform that currently has HSW, you should probably buy this thing while it's discounted, even if you put HSW on it at a later date. So buy the Hakuchu Drag for under 500k. You can't go wrong. Even on platforms that are not going to be getting HSW, for under 500k, it is a really fast bike. Okay, and two more vehicles that I cannot show you in game because they are not currently available on PC, but we do have the Coil Cyclone 2 and the Pegasi Weaponized Ignis, and they are both discounted this week by 50% off, which is a pretty sizable discount for sure. The Weaponized Ignis is interesting because obviously it has the top-mounted minigun on it, and it's very fast. I think it is regarded as the fastest supercar in the entire game with HSW, so that is something to be considered for sure. I would say the Weaponized Ignis on 50% off is probably worth buying. However, the Coil Cyclone 2, although super fast in a straight line and with HSW as an absolutely insane vehicle in a straight line, it cannot corner whatsoever. I would avoid the Coil Cyclone 2 this week, even though it is 50% off. I don't think that car is worth buying. Okay, and we got more discounts as well. On DocTees, yachts are discounted and they are 40% off. So if you're in the market for a yacht, now is definitely a good time to buy one. However, I would say that I do recommend against buying a yacht. I do not think that this thing is worth it. There's not really a whole lot you can do with the yacht. You get access to like the super yacht life missions and things like that, but overall it's not super worth your time, I don't really think. I might make a video about the yacht and go a little bit more in depth on this tomorrow, but I'm not really sure. Let me know if you guys want to see that in the comment section down below on this video. But I just kind of want to save some time and just say I don't really think it's worth it for most players to buy a yacht. If you don't have one already, I don't think it's worth buying one. That's what I'm going to say right here, right now. I'm going to do a deep dive on it tomorrow if that is something that you guys do want to see. So let me know in the comment section down below. Comment a 1 if you want to see me do a deep dive on the yacht, and comment a 2 if you don't care and you don't want to see it. Thank you very much. That's it for the yachts. Okay, so more discounts. We got property discounts as well. Arcades are 30% off this week, including upgrades and modifications for them. If you don't have an arcade, it does have a safe inside of it that will generate you $5,000 a day for putting down all the arcade machines within it. This kind of adds up over time. It can make you millions of dollars if you play the game for long enough. At this point in GTA's lifespan, it's probably not worth it to just buy it for the safe, but at the same time, it might be, because I think you will make a return on your investment, especially buying one when they are relatively cheap. As far as stuff that you need for the arcade, basically nothing. Like, if you want a personal quarter so you can spawn there, that's really the only thing worth buying. And of course, you can get the garage as well if that is something that does interest you. But for most people, I think just probably buy the arcade unless you're out of garage space. And you don't really need to spawn there unless you want to save some time collecting your save money. So consider doing that. I mean, if you are going to buy a personal quarters, now is a good time to do it. So do consider that for sure. Now, we also have salvage yards or chop shops discounted as well. Chop shops are pretty interesting. I would say they are actually a pretty good business, especially the tow truck aspect of it. That is the only reason I would buy one, honestly. But you can make a lot of money using the tow trucks. As far as I know, there's not really too much of a difference between the regular tow truck and the beater. I've heard that the beater is slightly slower. It has a slightly lower top speed. I do think that that is true, so that is something to consider. But yeah, you could buy, I mean, if you're gonna buy a salvage yard, buy a tow truck, but you probably can just get the beater. But if you got extra money, buy the regular one. The wall safe will allow you to hold 250k in your safe instead of just 100 grand, so you have to check it a little bit less often. And buying a second staff member will allow you to chop 2 cars at once instead of just one. Or sorry, no, it will allow you to chop it in half the time that it will normally take. It'll normally take 96 minutes to chop a car, but with staff, it'll only take 48. So it helps quite a bit. I would get staff and I would get the tow truck if you are going to get a salvage yard. The trade rates thing is not something that's really worth buying, in my opinion. And the last property discount is on hangars. Hangars are 35% off. And yeah, I mean, you should probably have a hangar, honestly. If you're going to buy a Raiju or any of that stuff, you need to have a hangar. So the hangar also has a semi-decent business that is included within it that you can make some money off of, so that is definitely something to consider. If you are going to buy a hangar, I would buy the living quarters, and I would definitely buy the workshop so that you can modify your aircraft. Those are the only 2 things that you really need with a hangar, though. However, if you do buy one in Fort Zancudo, you do get access to Fort Zancudo without getting stars. So that is something to consider, and I would highly recommend getting a Ford Zancudo hanger. I think it is worth the extra little bit of money, especially right now while they're discounted too. Going back to Warstock, I did forget that the Avenger is also discounted this week. It is 40% off, and the Avenger Operations Terminal is also 40% off, and you unlock the Raiju trade price by completing some of the missions that are found on the Avenger Operations Terminal. So do consider that for sure. The Avenger is a pretty cool aircraft. If you are going to buy one, depending on if you have an MOC with a vehicle workshop, you don't really need one in your Avenger. Your weapon workshop, you also really don't need one because you can just go to the freak shop and upgrade weapons for free. And the operations terminal is an upgrade that you can do. I don't really recommend it. I think you should just buy the Raiju for full price if you have the money to. That's what I would recommend. And if you play with other people, the gun turrets are kind of cool, but if you're a solo player, you absolutely do not need them. I also forgot we have every single open wheel class car in the game discounted by 25% off. Out of them all, the Benefactor BR8 is by far the best, then the Declasse DR1, then the Progen PR4, and the Osla R88 is the worst of them all. So if you are going to buy any of these, I would definitely do it in the order of BR8, DR1, Progen PR4, and don't buy the Osla R88. I wouldn't even necessarily recommend the PR4 or really the DR1. The BR8 is just simply the best out of them all. The DR1 though is pretty cheap. It is the cheapest out of them all, and it is the second best performance, so that is kind of the budget friendly one for sure. I do think the BR8 is just simply better though. That's it for the discounts that are on the websites. Now we got to go to the casino, the car meet, all the dealerships, and talk about the vehicles that are available at those places because we have more discounts coming up. So let's go. All right, within the casino, we got the Dinka RT3000. You should probably try to win it because it is a pretty decent car, I must say. Within the car meet, we got the Karen Futo GTX available to be won, and you're going to need to place top 3 for 4 days in a row. That challenge is not terribly hard. This thing does have drift tuning modifications available for it as well, so it can be a drift car. It's also very highly customizable, and obviously I know it is pretty culturally significant because of, I think it's called Initial D. So if you're interested in this thing, I mean, you could probably win it if you just win trade with a friend. I would say it's probably worth it for most people. Now within the LS car meet, we have 3 removed vehicles, starting off with the Obey 9F Cabrio on the left. You should absolutely buy one of these. It is a very cool car. It's got a little bit of customization, and it is cheap. It's only $130,000. Why not? The Canis Seminole Frontier is obviously the predecessor of the Canis Seminole. For $678,000, it is a very solid off-roader with some really nice customization. Overall, I think it is worth buying this week for sure. Next up, we got the Volcar Warrener. I actually don't think this thing is removed. I'm pretty sure it's available on the Benny's website. Let's actually just really quickly check that right now. Okay, I'm totally wrong. It is not available on the Benny's website. So it is a removed vehicle. I got confused with the Glendale. It's $120K. Buy one. It's a pretty cool car at that point. All right, within Simeon's, we got a lot of vehicles discounted this week, and all of these vehicles are removed, which is definitely something to consider. Starting off, we got the Benefactor Serrano over here. It is going for $55,000 because it is discounted by 50% off. 55 grand, you cannot go wrong with a Serrano. Buy one, no questions asked. We also have the Vapid Bullet, which is a removed vehicle and a supercar. It is going for $77,500. This thing regularly went for $155,000, I do believe it was, when it was available. Unfortunately, nothing in the way of customization. However, it is a really fun car to drive, I will say. I think the Vapid Bullet is worth it for like 77 grand. Why not? We also have the Emperor ETR1, which I talked about in the video a couple days ago about the forgotten supercars, or underrated supercars it was actually titled. The ETR1 is an awesome vehicle. It handles amazingly well. It's under $1 million this week as well. I think that this one is worth picking up, in my opinion at least. I think it's a really, really awesome car. Sounds great, has really high downforce, handles super well. It's great. Next up, we got the Dubachi Rapid GT Classic. This is one of the fastest sports classic cars in the game, and it's only $467,580. For that price, you should have one for sure. It's also highly customizable, and it's a fun one to drive too. It's really, really awesome. I would definitely buy one of those. And of course, we also have the Canis Kalahari, and it's going for 20 grand. I hate this thing, but for 20 grand, I mean, damn, maybe it's worth it. I don't know. That choice is up to you, for real. Luxury Autos is lame. We're back to it. We got the Niobe and we got the Overflowed Pipistrello, both of which are available on the website. So yeah, nothing cool here. Within the Chop Shop this week, these are the vehicles that are available to be stolen. We got the Dinka Kanjo SJ. You can get it by completing the Gangbanger Robbery. We also have the Declasse Vigoro ZX, which is available for completing the Podium Robbery, and of course the Pegassi Torero XO is available for completing the McTony Robbery. recovery. Unfortunately, none of them are claimable, so you cannot keep any of them, so do keep that in mind. And there you have it. That has been it for what to buy and what to avoid this week in Grand Theft Auto Online. Before we end, of course, we do have to talk about the time trials this week. Your RC Bandito time trial today is Cypress Flats. Your Junk Energy time trial is, of course, Mirror Park. Your regular time trial is Casino. And your HSW time trial is North Chumash to Palomino Highlands down here. Anyway, guys, that has been it for what to buy and what to avoid this week in Grand Theft Auto Online. I think that's the longest one of those videos that I have ever done. It was very tiring, but I'm glad we made it to the end. Hopefully this was informative and helpful for you guys. If it was, consider dropping a like. If not, dislike, of course. Either of them help me out for sure. Consider subscribing to my channel if you guys are new, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.